On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Spokane area, welcome to our 2022 primary election candidate forum featuring candidates for the Spokane County Commissioner District Number 2. With the redistricting from 3 to 5 districts, this is a new district and generally includes the city of Spokane east of Division, along with some unincorporated areas around the eastern edges of the city. Voters should have received by now a card from the county elections office with your new district number. Only voters who reside in this district will vote for these candidates in the primary and the general elections. The new maps are available on the Spokane County election site. I am Ann Murphy, your moderator, and Mike Bell of the League is our timer. Election day for the 2022 primary election is Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. Ballots will be mailed to all registered voters beginning July 13th, and the return ballot must be postmarked or deposited in conveniently located ballot boxes no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day, August 2nd. This is a top 2 primary in which the 2 highest vote getters, regardless of party preference, will advance to the November general election. This forum can be seen as equivalent to a job interview as you, the voter, learn more about the candidates seeking to hold this office. And you, the voters, are the ones who will determine by your vote, marking your informed decision for hiring your representation when you mark your ballot. Citizens can register to vote by mail or online at votewa.gov by July 25th, 2022. Or in person on Election Day at the Spokane County Elections Office, 1033 West Gardner Avenue, or at Center Place, 2426 North Discovery Place, Spokane Valley. For other questions about casting your ballot or information about the candidates, contact the Spokane County Elections Office at 509-477-2320 or visit their website, spokanecounty.org/elections, or on the League of Women Voters online voters guide at vote411.org. I will be asking the candidates questions that have been formulated by the League's Voter Services Committee, and will ask as many questions as time allows. Before the questions begin, the candidates will have up to 30 seconds to introduce themselves and tell the voters why they are running. They will have up to 1 minute to answer each of the questions, with potential additional time for rebuttal or follow-up question as appropriate. Each candidate will have the opportunity for a 30-second closing statement, and the candidates have a countdown clock in front of them so that they know how time is elapsing. The first speaker will alternate with each question. And now, to meet the candidates. They are Bob Apple, Michael Cathcart, Glenn Stockwell, and Amber Waldriff. So starting with Bob Apple, you have 30 seconds to tell us why you're running for Spokane County Commissioner.
Well, thank you very much. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for giving us this opportunity to speak and tell you about us, the candidates. I'm a born and raised Spokane resident, educated here in our beautiful city, and as well worked most of my life right here in Spokane and owned businesses here as well. Recently now retired, so I have the time to put a lot more effort into helping out making our government a little better. I've served on numerous boards and commissions through the years, and I think it's about time we make some changes. We see a lot of problems occurring.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear more about those as we get into the questions, so thank you. Mr. Cathcart.
Yeah, I'm Michael Cathcart, and I'm running for Spokane County Commissioner to raise the bar for all of East Spokane during this critical once-in-a-generation opportunity to shape our new county government. The families, workers, and employers in my district deserve to know that they're not just heard, but that they have the strongest, most impassioned, and unrelenting advocate fighting for them every single day in county government. I'm absolutely committed to continuing the fight to ensure our right to live in a safe community, to pull the region together collaboratively to address housing, homelessness, infrastructure, and local resiliency, and to make our county business and county officials more transparent and accessible.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stockwell.
I'm running to bring the largest economic development project in U.S. history to Washington State, Spokane County, Eastern Washington, and Western Washington ports. That project was brought into our our state 89 years ago by the Democrats. And I think we need to finish it. Right now, there's $1.2 trillion on the federal table to do that. I will be placing $400,000 of my salary into a non-revocable trust, and if I do not succeed, I will be giving that out to the homeless veterans and to the FFA.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll go to Ms. Waldrop.
Hi, I'm Amber Waldref, and as your county commissioner, I will bring a record of trusted leadership and proven results from 8 years working as a Spokane City Council member and almost 20 years here in Spokane working with community and business leaders to bring people together to get to common solutions to our local challenges. I'm focused on building a just, safe, and sustainable community that expands opportunity, economic opportunities for all. And
we'll have to stop
thank
you
you.
there, and hopefully we'll touch on them as we go through our
Perfect.
questions. So our first question will start with Mr. Cathcart. How, this is going back to some state legislation, the provisions of House Bill 1099, which would have mandated climate change mitigation and environmental resiliency in the state's comprehensive planning be incorporated into Spokane County's comprehensive planning in this update cycle for that plan. With the City of Spokane implementing a sustainability action plan as well, please explain ways that the county could develop to achieve sustainability goals to further resiliency in all of Spokane County. You all will have 1 minute for this question.
Absolutely. Well, resiliency is really important, but one of the best ways that we can find resiliency is by lowering costs for a lot of the folks in our community. And we're seeing, obviously, rising inflation. We're seeing increasing fuel prices. The cost of living in our community has skyrocketed over the last several years. And so the emphasis needs to be on how can we create a community that is safe and affordable and where people can find homeownership opportunities. And unfortunately, the situation we're in is we are applying all kinds of new regulations to housing in the name of the environment, but what those regulations are doing are drastically increasing the cost of housing in our community. In fact, it's estimated that just the most recent energy code update from the state has added $20,000 to the cost of a home. So we need to be thinking about how we can mitigate for carbon and mitigate for climate solutions in a way that balances jobs but ensures affordability and homeownership.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Mr. Stockwell next.
Hello. I'm totally in favor of the environmental, raising the environmental impact. I think we can do it affordably. I think there's new methods of producing automobiles and et cetera that will come in underneath the Green Act. I do believe that over the last 18 months, inflation is totally ruining our country, and we need to go back to some basic building blocks and raise the standard of living for everyone in this nation. I'm promoting bringing in the largest economic development project in U.S. history, and that is a farm project. And by bringing in the farm project, it will raise the environment, and it will increase the oxygen, et cetera, to Spokane and the area. It's a pro-environment project, and I think that we need to move forward on that. The money is currently on the table, $1.2 trillion.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Waldrop.
well, it's definitely a change that we've seen in our climate. I'm thinking of last summer with the heat that we had here in Spokane. Actually, some folks did a heat map, and they looked at the deaths related to the extreme heat here in Spokane County. We had 16 people die last summer, mostly in their homes from extreme heat. So there's definitely a lot we can do as a county. I think one of the roles of the county government is emergency preparedness. And so working with our local municipalities, we need to be, just like we go out and make sure folks have smoke alarms and other emergency preparedness strategies. We also need to be making sure the vulnerable in our community have access to whether it be heat or cooling shelters. We need to be looking at multiple strategies. About 50% of carbon emissions come from transportation and vehicles, and about 50% comes from our buildings.
Okay,
So we definitely need to make some changes.
We're out of time there. So, Mr. Apple.
I'm very concerned these days more about the economy of our community, about the quality of life for our residents. And I do see there's a need to make sure that our environment is secure and safe, such as our river, the air, the water. I'm not worried about the water. And our river, we've gone to great lengths to clean up. When I was on the city council, we did a great deal, and even before and since. So what we need are regulations that are reasonable, but also allow development. And one thing we're facing right now is a lack of real development occurring in our community. Those are jobs, those are businesses coming here, and those are homes for people who want to live here. Those are the first priority. Economically, we have to consider that first. Environmentally, I have no problem with natural gas. I think we should be using it. I think the state's direction regarding gas needs to stop.
And
we
we're
need to
out
get
of
back.
time,
Thank you.
Mr. Apple, so maybe you can cycle around more. Would like to now move to our next question, and we will start with Mr. Stockwell. What economic development strategies would you propose for Spokane County, and specifically, any priorities for spending remaining pandemic funds?
Well, I hate to be repetitive, but I'm promoting bringing the largest economic development project in U.S. history to Washington State, Spokane County, Eastern Washington, and to the ports of Washington. That project was brought in 89 years ago by the Democrats, and they did a wonderful job for Washington. It's been working for 70 years. We need to finish that project. There's $1.2 trillion currently on the table to finish that project. And it will bring in quality jobs that will last for 20 years. And those will be self-sustaining jobs for the people of Spokane County here. And I believe that we should go after that project and help change the economy of Eastern Washington, Washington State, and the nation. And we can change the output of farming from $5 billion to $15 billion a year.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Waldrop.
Well, one of the reasons I'm running for county commissioner is that I believe that these American Rescue Plan dollars coming from the federal government are an amazing source for us to consider investing in our community for long-term sustainable impact. I am running because I really care about all residents, especially our working families. I'm a mom with 2 kids coming out of the pandemic. It's been a real rough time. And now many households are facing rising costs of transportation, housing, food. I think that one of the best ways we could spend the American Rescue Plan dollars is what I would call like our social infrastructure, our transportation, affordable housing, childcare, even partnering with the state and local governments on childcare. These are the things, if we can buy down the cost of those essential services for our community, people can save money, and we can have long-term impacts on children and families.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Apple.
Well, if those dollars will help our citizens be able to afford the gas to get to work, get to school, and do the essentials, great. I'll help divert that money to those sources. If it will help the community be able to afford reasonable housing, I'll help make that happen as your commissioner. But we need to divert money where money needs to be. And if that money can be diverted that way, great. If not, we have a plan and we have ideas of how to make that all happen here in Spokane anyway. Right now, our costs are a little high. Fuel is way too high, and we need to really act to make changes here in Spokane that will make improvements for the consumer, for the businesses, and right now, too many businesses are being really hurt by the economy. So the economy and the practices that have been placed on them by the government. So we need to really restrict some of the rules and let business flow and let the economy grow.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cathcart.
Yeah, thank you. So economic development is really important, and obviously the ARPA expenditures is a big source of conversation. One of the big things that I really want to do, and I've been thinking a lot about as chair of our Northeast Public Development Authority, is, can we lobby the legislature for more incentives and resources to make Spokane, and in my mind, most specifically the NEPDA, a center of resiliency. And so this is a continuation of our last topic, but one of the big things here would be, can we incentivize manufacturing of critical goods, distribution and warehousing of critical goods? We see when the passes are closed, when there's a pandemic, when there's these other issues going on, that our grocery store aisles are bare. And this would be a great opportunity for us to be resilient and also to incentivize job creation and the manufacturing of local goods, which is a big, big need. And there's a lot of opportunity for that in the NEPDA. And by the way, that's a great place for us to be investing ARPA dollars because it has been significantly underinvested over the years.
Okay, thank you. We'll move into another question now. As a county commissioner, you'll be called upon to make policy or program decisions that will directly affect the lives of community members who have come in contact with the criminal justice system. It is estimated that 60 to 70% of the Spokane County General Fund is absorbed by criminal justice-related costs. If elected as a commissioner, what would you do differently to reduce the cost of this system to taxpayers while creating a safer and healthier community? And we'll start with you, Ms. Waldorf.
I'm very confident that there's a lot of proven strategies, and I think some of them are being piloted right now at the county. Proven strategies that reduce costs, reduce crime, and people recommitting crimes, and keep people safe and accountable. So examples of that at our criminal justice system here in Spokane County, there's been several pilot programs that I think need to be expanded, like reminding people when they have a court date, something as simple as that. It saves so much time and energy having to send out more notices to people, maybe getting a warrant to get people in. So just some very simple things that can be done. There's also, we can save money in our system by doing supervision of those who've been charged with a crime rather than putting them in the jail. The jail is very costly, so the more that we can reduce risk and keep people out in the community working while they're waiting for their court date saves us time and money.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Apple.
Yes, we do have, I think, some real problems with our court system, and I think there are really good solutions out there that we can employ. First, we need to do some studies to determine what crimes are occurring and in what numbers. But I can already say that repeat offenders have been a big problem in Spokane, and I believe that repeat offenders should receive a much more stiff sentence, at least each time. And that way, they're not out there in the public. But I think there's a lot of crimes that we're considering crimes today that probably don't meet the burden. And I think a lot of those people could wear a bracelet or something rather than actually serve time in jail. So I'd like to see some studies done to determine what's the most effective way. I know there's a lot of old studies. Things have changed. Some of our laws have changed. We need some new laws actually put in place. Our law enforcement needs some tools to do their job that have been taken away. We have some problems with people, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Mr. Cathcart.
Yeah, thank you. I really think the criminal justice system is, if not broken, it's pretty darn close to it. We really do need to invest more in law enforcement. We need to hire lots more officers, both in the city and the county. But in the criminal justice system as a whole, we really need to invest dollars into our courts to make sure that the victims of these crimes get swift justice. That's really, really important so that we can actually move people through that system more expeditiously. We need to hire more judges. We can bring on a couple of more judges, and I believe we should look at that. We could also look at a full-time night court. I think there's a lot of things that we could do to improve the speed of our justice system. But the fact is, the folks that are there because they've committed their first, maybe their second criminal act, nonviolent criminal act, we should do everything in our power to keep them out of a cell because that's only going to make them a better criminal. But if you're a recidivist and you are victimizing our community, you should be behind bars. That's where you belong.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stockwell.
Well, I would have to agree with Mr. Cathcart here. I would applaud his approach on this. I believe that we do need more law and order, and depending on the crimes that are committed by each individual. Some people go through life and they only would make a small crime, and they're definitely not a threat to humanity. Recently, there was a gentleman in Seattle that threw his nurse down the steps, went down, ran down, beat her up, and then he stabbed another woman 10 times. And now we're paying him $250 a day. It makes no sense. The system is broken here. And so I would be for a stronger common sense approach to law and justice, and I support the police 100%, and always have. So I applaud Mr. Cathcart on his approach.
Okay, we're going to continue a little bit on this same topic, but starting in our new order with Mr. Apple, because big conversation in this community has been a bigger jail or more diversion. Diverting people from jail has also been discussed, so to not have to have new construction. As a policy matter, please name what diversion programs you have seen success with. What might be a new diversion program that shows the most promise that you could support being instituted should you be elected? Mr. Apple?
Well, as I said, bracelets, one of the methods that's being really used a lot today, rather than put somebody in jail, is they have a bracelet on their ankle. It tracks them, and they're not allowed to either leave their home or to go to certain locations. It's a great method of restricting the movement of people and following the movement of people. So for those who need it, that's a great method. If it's a criminal case, criminal situation, or a really bad situation where somebody could be really harmful, we have the jails. And those jails, we have more than one. We actually have Geiger Release or Geiger Center up on the Sunset Hill, and we have a jail here in the downtown area. We need to look at that jail. We need to make sure it's in good working order, good shape. And as far as Geiger, we need to reevaluate it and its use, maybe even expand. Those are the real possibilities.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cathcart?
Yeah, our jail is not safe. It's not safe for staff, and it's not safe for the inmates who are there. For that reason alone, we absolutely need to consider building some form of a new jail. And what I have said is I believe that we should look at that, but it absolutely must include some form of mental health service as well as drug treatment. And I believe that those services should be accessible by those who are referred to those services through community court or through other organizations like that. And so one of the big things that we have to consider also is the capacity. And the jail was built at a time when we had a much smaller population, and we are now seeing the need. I mean, the jail has been doubled in size to a very unsafe level for a number of years prior to COVID. And of course, we have seen escalating crime rates and violent crime on our streets since COVID, and a lot of the folks were let out of the jails. And so we have to look at that and make sure that we have a capacity that fits our community.
Thank you. Mr. Stockwell?
I'd be for building more jails. And I think that what we need to do is look at the type of crimes that people commit and put those criminals of high crimes in a certain jail and people that commit lower offenses in another alternative jail. I agree with Amber about the concept of the bracelets and et cetera, and Mr. Apple, and also about using Texas and getting people to courts on time and et cetera. The largest part of the community is law-abiding, and we just need to change the direction of those who are breaking the laws. And there are several methods of doing that. I think we should use some of these people on work release programs and start having them work in the community. And they could all be wearing bracelets, you know. So most of them are not, you don't have to worry about high crime with them.
Thank you very much. Ms. Waldrop?
Thank you. I've looked at the price tags that have been looked at over the last 10 years for a new jail in Spokane, and the price tag just keeps growing and growing. I believe that we still have not exhausted all of our diversion opportunities. I am sympathetic that there needs to be some safety measures put into the jail, and I definitely am interested in considering that. But I can't go out to taxpayers right now with that type of price tag. For the amount of money to build a new jail, we could put a lot of programs into place. One of the diversion programs that is just getting off the ground is a new facility that I advocated for when I was on city council. It's diverting folks that have substance use disorder or mental health issues from the jail. And this is really huge. It's 16 beds, and I'm interested to see how that goes. It just opened during the pandemic, so I'm interested to see how that works and if that could be expanded. Because treating folks in the jail for mental health isn't a great way to spend our money.
Okay, thank you. We will go on. The current, and this next question will go first to you, Mr. Cathcart. The current Board of County Commissioners received criticism for changes it made to the Board of Public Health in response to HB 1152. What changes in the new law relative to size and/or composition of that Board of Public Health might you promote that would benefit the responsiveness of that board? Mr. Cathcart.
Yeah, I guess I'm not entirely sure the controversy, since they followed the letter of the law and put a board together that met the standards that the legislature approved. I don't think you need an unwieldy large board to make good, sound public health decisions. You just need good, sound board members. And so one of the things I've said is I would look for an MD to support, to put on that board, who meets certain qualifications and would have sort of some niche expertise that isn't present on that board, just to add some additional knowledge base. And I think that would be really beneficial to the board. So that's one of the things that I've committed to doing when I am given the opportunity to appoint to the health board.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stockwell.
Well, I found it wise not to speak about a subject I'm not familiar with, and I am not familiar with this subject. So I have, I keep hating to repeat myself, but Mr. Cathcart here seems to be well informed on this. So I would give my time over to, I would like to listen instead of jumping to a conclusion on something that I'm not familiar with.
Fair enough. Thank you. We'll move on to Ms. Waldorf. Thank you.
Well, I actually served on the Board of Health for 7 years when I was on Spokane City Council, I guess the previous version of the Board of Health. And I think that, unfortunately, our entire public health department and the board got caught up in a lot of politics between firing the health director and then reshaping the board and then appointing a new board. I guess I'm interested in serving on whatever board is there and working with educated folks from our community, from different perspectives, to make good decisions for that department. And I think that does need to include trained physicians, which the board did include when I served on it. So I look forward to bringing, a good, practical, science-based approach to public health, and I think that's what our citizens are looking for.
Thank you. Mr. Apple.
Well, I also served on the Regional Health Board when I was on the City Council. And during that time, I found there was a good mix of people. It has changed. I understand there was a controversy. But most of the medical concerns in the medical industry, would be nice if there was a representative there. But I realize that the staff of the health district also can fill that void and give that information to the elected officials who serve on that board. So I'm not overly concerned with the decisions that were made. I do think they became overly political, and that's the only real problem I saw. The end results I'm not in disagreement with, so I didn't see a real problem there. But I do think we could use a health interest on that board.
Okay, thank you. And now to give you an opportunity here to discuss any other policies and your solutions that we have not touched on here during this forum. What would you prioritize if elected? And we'll start with you, Mr. Stockwell.
Well, again, I'm going to be repetitive. I've raised a family. I have grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and the one basic need in life is a good job to raise your families and become productive participants in society. And on February 2nd, I came to this room and I gave a proposal, and Mr. Cathcart was here. We have an opportunity here to bring the largest economic development project in U.S. history, and this council right here, along with the county commissioners that I gave the same proposal to on February 3rd, they have the unique opportunity to come together in a bipartisan fashion and bring thousands of jobs to Spokane County and Eastern Washington and change the direction of our nation and state for the next century.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Your time is up. Thank you, Mr. Stockwell.
Thank you.
Ms. Waldrop.
Well, I think one topic we haven't touched on tonight that's on a lot of folks' minds who maybe got their recent property assessment, and I know my husband and I were kind of surprised at the assessments going up. Our housing prices and our housing crisis here in Spokane, I mean, it's part of a national issue. It's something I really want to work on as your county commissioner. I've had lots of great experiences working on a variety of housing issues, from being a leader to address foreclosures and abandoned properties when I was on city council, getting state laws changed so we could prevent blight and get those homes turned over to places like Habitat to get them into first-time home buyers' hands. I currently serve on the Housing Authority Board, and I'm excited because we have a new program called Moving to Work, which is going to be able to help us subsidize folks, renters, and get them on their feet and get them access to good paying jobs. So I think it's really important that we create a regional approach
Okay,
to both
we'll have to
increasing
leave
housing.
it there, Ms. Waldrop. Mr. Apple.
It's a big topic.
Yeah.
I think what we're missing a lot of these days in our local government is direct access. I think the public needs to see the documents. I think they need to talk to the officials. And I think they need to be more inclusive in the decisions made. Something I've noticed since years ago when I was on this city council is that problem. And as a small business owner in my past, both as a contractor and a retail salesperson in a restaurant and bar business, I know that direct contact is absolutely number one. And I want to see that from our government with its citizens. I want to see, and I will be there in direct contact, whether it's phone, email, internet, text, or direct talk in person. I'm going to be available. That's something that just needs to happen, and I don't see enough of it these days. And I have found I can't contact a lot of people. So I know that needs to be fixed.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cathcart.
Yeah, thank you. So, public safety obviously needs to be our number one priority, but beyond public safety, just to piggyback a little bit on what Amber mentioned, housing is absolutely critical. And in my role on the city council, I have been probably the most vocal advocate for more housing solutions, and I think we can bring a lot of those to the county. But the biggest thing that we have to do is collaborate regionally. And one of the first things I want to do from the county commission is pull together a very public meeting of all of our jurisdictions to meet and talk about how we can coordinate regionally on housing issues, on homeless issues, on infrastructure that benefits the region, as well as local resiliency. And I think that by working together, we're going to find real solutions to a lot of these problems, whereas a lot of the impacts end up settling on the city, and in particular in East Spokane. And we really need regional solutions to lighten that load and to do a much better job. And on transparency, fully agree. In fact, we also need more language access for more people to be able to access the county.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we will go to your closing statements. You will each have up to 30 seconds to tell that last pitch to the voters. So we'll start with you, Mr. Stockwell.
Well, I think anyone here on the that's running for county commissioner needs to be confident in themselves before the voters can be. I'm going to be putting in $400,000 of my salary into a non-revocable trust. I will be bringing the largest economic development project in U.S. history to Spokane County. If for any reason I do not succeed, failure is not acceptable to me. The money will be turned over to the homeless veterans of Spokane and also to the FFA.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Waldrop.
Thank you to the League for sponsoring this forum. Really appreciate it. And, you know, I am very proud of my record and working towards common solutions, getting more transit in Spokane, cleaning up the Spokane River, improving our neighborhoods, creating greater safety in our neighborhoods. And that is through regional collaboration. I have the experience. I've done the careful budgeting. I'm confident by working together, we can have a safer and more prosperous county, and I would be honored by your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Apple.
I just want people to know that I recognize we are not California. We are not even Seattle. We are Spokane. Our interests, our goals must be directed to the quality of life of our citizens who live here, and everything we do in government should be geared to making that better. That our kids get a great education, that our citizens live as best as possible. And I think everything we can do in government as an elected official has to be geared towards that. And you also have to be able to talk to the people, work with them.
And thank you very much. Mr. Cathcart.
Yeah, the Spokane dream of a safe and affordable community with attainable homeownership opportunities has moved further and further out of reach. Chronic lawlessness has many believing we're on the verge of a public safety crisis. Increasing homeless population is impacting neighborhoods. Rising property taxes are hammering seniors and adding to the rent burden. Steep inflation, supply chain issues, and skyrocketing fuel prices are affecting everyone. But by working cooperatively and collaboratively across the region, we can plan for, mitigate, and solve many of these issues. I'm Michael Cathcart, and I would appreciate your vote.
And thank you. This concludes our 2022 primary election candidate forum featuring candidates for County Commissioner representing District 2. Again, they are Bob Apple, Michael Cathcart, Glenn Stockwell, and Amber Waldrop. Before we close, a few voting reminders. You have to be registered to vote. You can do that online or by mail by July 25th. You can do same-day registration on Election Day at the Spokane County Elections Office, 1033 West Gardner Avenue, and Center Place, 2426 North Discovery Place, Spokane Valley. Ballots mailed to registered voters July 13th through the 15th. Your ballot must be postmarked, and no stamp is necessary, or deposited in conveniently located ballot boxes and voter service centers no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day, August 2nd, 2022. For locations of ballot boxes or voter service centers, information about accessible voting units, or other questions about casting your ballot, contact the Spokane County Elections Office at 509-477-2320 or go to SpokaneCounty.org/elections. Contact information for the candidates as well as a voter's guide can also be found on the website of the Spokane County Elections Office. Additional information about candidates can be found on the League of Women Voters online voter guide, vote411.org. For more information about the League, visit our website, lwvspokane.org. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, thank you to our candidates for participating in this forum. We hope this has given you, the voters, information that will help you make an informed decision when marking your ballots for Election Day, Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. Thank you.